Whoa. Damn right, I'm a U.P.K nigga. Straight out of one West, looking best, be the best in the niggas. Living, trying to contend with the stress. Going through the test, no access. Country repressed, slaves. Niggas is dying off in waves. Living in dirt, now it's a grave. Niggas crosswalk through the crosswalk, or the white chalk, over the bodies of roads that you made. Americans killing us, saying they fearing us with the drugs in the hood. Now my niggas delirious with the faces, because of my race with boom blast. Still subverting my ass. Like a chicken in the slaughter, I'm getting harder and harder. Baptized with these words. Never giving me water, so now we pray to the Father. Get strength to the Father, that's looking for the water. We're taking my dogs, nigga, it's war time. Lights up, nigga, showtime. Got the green light on that ass, it's go time. You can up, shut up, we get your ass up. Cause we ain't got time to be playing this all fucked up America. Like we want to think hell for the slavery, you what you sold, you give it back to what you gave for what you like. Trying to imitate, you was always fake America. Every city state, this is your fate. Whoa. Whoa, to America. Whoa, 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 to America. Whoa, 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 to America. Whoa, 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 to America. On the timeline, giving the world to expose the intricacies of these vibes. Doing my white shit. Get what it is, pass out, so in a minute, I'ma pass out. I hope you get it, didn't you crash mine? Kinda simple with the feeling, catch your last line. Feel real confused, a bad mind. I damn straight, this the exact thing, on the jazz ride. Bombs in the sky, rich level lullaby. Hope you got all the vibe, bombs in the sky, rich level lullaby. Enemies is high, see it from the bubble lot, finna fall out. Devils finna fall out, all our warfare, nightmares in the big houses and murder this for years. And thinking shit, won't turn around. I never learned, this motherfucker burns down. Yeah, in the streets, told them to preach to all of you angels, bring woe to this beast. You root for time, but we play for keeps. I pray to my Father, bring woe to this beast. Remember them times we hung on the trees. All of you nations bow down to your knees. Remember them shit, they brought us the fleets. Fuck the Apollo, bring them the heat. Whoa, 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 to America. Whoa, whoa, to America. Whoa, 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 to America. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
God is going to destroy this empire. You got to see famine in this place. You think them fires in California is bad? That's just the beginning of what the Lord is about to do. Because you've been evil to the Lord's people. You've been wicked to the Most High's children, man. You've been destructive to the 12 tribes of Israel. Let me tell you something, black man. You got to put on your strength now, man. Put back on your strength and might, black man, because your day is coming. Your day is coming because the Lord is coming on this earth.
Man, I'm telling you, man. They really ain't gonna believe that I got a baby of my own while I'm doing this. It's hard, man. Won't be quiet. Check it out, yo. Trains on days before niggas started shooting, we would still catch fades. It's like the world's a lot scarier since crack grenades. And the only thing that we became was rats in the maze. Trapping in caves. Minds fucked up from the pills of the haze. Mom said we hard-headed, stuck in our ways. So I've been praying to the Most High that it's just a phase, yo. Always surprised and always amazed. Especially at what's been getting radio plays, yo. I wanna be the cataclysm, some cataclysm, bomb terminally and take it back to lyricism. But you know nowadays, it seems like it's forbidden. Anybody in the industry knows they ain't fucking with them. And anyone I'm signed, they wanna be outshined. So I guess it's just me, myself, and all these empty lines. I never knew that being nice would get you penalized. Once you blowing up, they wanna know your penis size. Hoes all staring, saying you got dreamy eyes. And if you ain't fake, they wanna see you demonized. If they be dropping gems, and it's slow as El Dorado. A midnight marauder, young desperado, with a bravado. That's a hard act to follow. Make your favorite rappers look like amateurs at the Apollo. Yeah, and that's a hard pill to swallow. Me and my Bato steady painting pictures like Picasso. They trying to clock us like Pablo and Gustavo. No hotel, straight to the Gestapo. Hola muchacho, yo hablo español, el hombre blanco, es el diablo. Now I'm going over heads like a poncho, trying to stack chips with more cheese than some nachos. Why you acting macho? Your whole plate is got though. They ain't want beef, but I feel it like a taco. Yo, don't get it twisted like a rasta. Don't be bringing none of that bullshit into me casa. You ain't seen this much crack since the Contras. Belly of the beast, we all live inside a monster. That's why I be thanking God I'm alive, tapping into different vibes, getting more than a scribe. Every verse an open letter sent to all the tribes. Lost in the ghetto, steady struggle to survive, yo. The things I seen with a pair of eyes got me out here living in this life desensitized. Part of the reason that I'm hardly if never surprised. I've heard the screams of brothers and seen mothers that cried. See the soul leave the body right before he died. 23 years old, gunned down before his prime. While your favorite rapper only talking dollar signs. But when our people in trouble, they quiet as a mime. Every day is the struggle, I speak it through these lines. That's how I know they can relate, I speak in daily lives. I'm representing for my nation, all the lost tribes. All my people that been locked up in 25. Cause being born a minority was their first crime. They serve a protect, choking your next 7 is fine. They murder one of us, but guilty verdict when they try. They wonder why they get no respect and we call them swine. Live in a time where you lose your life and become a vine. Friends turn to t-shirts, corners turn to shrines. And if our leader ain't a Pharisee, then he's a scribe. Cause he ain't coming out unless he thinks he can scrape a dime. Get his name in the paper, face in the line. The world's black and white and you better pick a side.
We are the I.S.U.P.K. out of 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yahanna. Tonight I would be teaching the scripture breakdown class for Officer Galawan. I am priest and Officer Barriat. So tonight we're going to get into the topic. And I must say is a very good topic that we're going to get in today. We are 3 sisters from different parts of the world that brought across some questions. And the topic tonight would be answering questions or women often ask, right? So we have a couple questions that would be representative of women in our nation that would be asking these questions on them, and we'll go through the questions and answer them thoroughly and touch on different topics that women would ask, because we know that in the Christian church they wouldn't or they cannot really go into this book, because this book belonged to the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Right. And was stolen by the white man during the time when Jerusalem was destroyed and used to indoctrinate God's people, which is the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. So, as this book belongs to us, we will go into it and clear up the confusion that we sisters might be in the Christian church. As you know, today the Christian church is in a mess. A lot of them famous for getting rich, basically teaching for money, creating big mega churches to steal the money away people and not feeding them any knowledge at all. Having all kind of 2 hours of singing, reading 1 line of scripture, and talking on it for 2 hours, and still not giving you the correct understanding or the correct breakdown of the book. And it goes so far that the Catholic Church now promoting homosexuality in the Catholic Church. So we're going to go into these questions on them. As I say, we are 3 women that asked some questions earlier on. One is from Trinidad, Katian from Trinidad, Nikki from Canada, and Jamandra from Grenada. So we're going to go into the questions on them. We also send them the link so that they could view the classes on them live they could come up and ask the questions. And if they have any more additional questions than the ones that they sent, and we will touch them. And we will get into answering these questions that sisters often would try to get the answers to, but they would not get these answers on them in the Christian church. So we're going to go into the scriptures thoroughly now. And of course, we would acknowledge the two priests in the house, at least right now, Officer Mike Kwa and Officer Matt Quiet. And of course, they would also add to the class. So the first question here is from Katian from Trinidad. She asks, why men have to cheat? She wants to know why men have to cheat, right? So in the Christian church, we know that there is push this doctrine on sisters about one wife, one man married in one wife, and that is the way things are supposed to be. That is what is pushed on we sisters on them in the Christian church, right? So we're going to answer her question, but we're going to give her the biblical answer, and we're also going to go into history and see first where this one wife custom came from. That's the first thing we had to do. And then we would go into the scriptures and touch on the question that the sister asked. So you're going to pull up marriage in ancient Rome. And you could get this on Wikipedia. Right. So somebody will just pull up marriage in ancient Rome.
Wikipedia, right?
Yeah, Wikipedia. Yeah. All right, so I must have pulling it up here. So you're going to answer the sister's question first from a historical standpoint. So she would know where this one wife concept came from and understand. Once you understand that, then we could start going down and showing you exactly what it is going on. Right, go ahead.
Marriage in ancient Rome was a strictly monogamous institution. A Roman citizen by law could have only one spouse at a time.
Read over that again.
Marriage in ancient Rome was a strictly monogamous institution. A Roman citizen by law could have only one spouse at a time.
Right, go ahead.
The practice of monogamy distinguished the Greeks and Romans from other ancient civilizations in which elite males typically had multiple wives.
Right. Read over that again. Just for the sisters and them to pick it up.
The practice of monogamy distinguished the Greeks and Romans from other ancient civilizations in which elite males typically had multiple wives.
Right. You understand? So that's the first part that we're going to touch. Right? At the end of the day, the custom of having one wife came from the Greeks and the Romans. And the Roman Empire was so large that when it broke up, parts of the Roman Empire still exist today. Like Britain, you understand? They are part of the break of Roman Empire. And from Britain came America. So they still push the doctrines of Rome even today. And as we read down lower in history from the excerpt, you're going to see that what we're talking about. Go ahead.
Greco-Roman monogamy may have arisen from the egalitarian of the democratic and republican political systems of the city-states. It is one aspect of ancient Roman culture that was embraced by early Christianity.
Right, go ahead.
Which in turn perpetuated it as an ideal in latter Western culture.
Right, you understand? So these practices on them was picked up by Christianity, early Christianity, and pushed in Western culture. You understand? Because the so-called Roman and Greeks, which is the so-called white man, all these break-off countries on them, you understand, it broke off from Rome, is still headed by the white man today. And the white man is the one that running the earth today. Who rules the earth, who conquers the earth, they are the same people that will push their doctrine on other races that underneath them. You understand? Because they are running the earth today, their doctrines and philosophies are running the earth. You understand? So this culture of one wife came from the Greeks and the Romans. And up to today, it is being perpetuated on the whole planet. So from this year, we're going to pause here, but we're going to come back to this. We're going to go into some other cultures which would have existed, and you would see if that had been their custom or practice. Of course, we know the nation that we're dealing with tonight is the nation of Israel, the blacks, Hispanics, and the native Indians. This was not their culture, and we're going to go into that just now biblically. You understand? The one wife was not their culture. So the first thing a woman had to understand, if you're with a black man, a Hispanic man, one native Indian man, and you have more than one wife, or for some reason you find him like he can't stay with one person, he always had to get somebody else. But men now in the world, we brothers and them out in the world, they have a Christian mindset. They're not bold like us to let a woman know up front, hey, this is my culture. Having more than one wife is my culture. So you know what I'm going to do? It's going to be in the spirit to have another woman, but they're going to hide to do it. You understand? They're not going to come out plain and tell you here what's going on. You understand? This is like, the best way to describe this is like you could take a monkey nature to swing on a tree. You could capture a monkey and put him in the zoo and have bars inside of his enclosement. He's naturally going to swing because that It's in the DNA to swing. You understand? You can take a pig and bathe it. The mud and bathe it and have it clean. And just have it around and put a puddle of mud. It will naturally go in the puddle of mud and nasty back up itself because in the DNA. You understand? And the customs that the Lord put for the children of Israel is in the DNA. You understand? To be that way. To have more than one wife, or it's up to them that they could choose to have one woman, or they could have more than one wife. But it's not the culture, it's not in the DNA to be one wife, like the Greeks or the Romans. So this is something that we women and them have to understand. You understand? So we're going down further. A matter of fact, let me go further down into this and then we'll check out different cultures. Go ahead.
Next verse.
Yeah, next verse.
Marriage had mythical precedence, starting with the adoption of the Sabine woman, which may reflect the archaic custom of bride abduction. Romulus and his band of male immigrants were rejected connubium, the legal right to intermarriage from the Sabine. According to Livy, Romulus and his men abducted the Sabine women, the Sabine maidens, but promised them an honorable marriage in which they would enjoy the benefits of property, citizenship, and children. These three benefits seem to define the purpose of marriage in ancient Rome.
Right, you understand? So this whole one wife thing basically came about from Romulus, which is the forefather of the Romans and them, interfering with the Sabian maids and them, and then making a deal with the father that here what's going on. I'm going to marry your daughter, I'm going to stay with your daughter, and she's going to have access to the things that I have. You understand? That's where the whole custom come from, that one wife. That was never the culture of Israel or the culture of other cultures upon the face of the planet. So you're going to go back up a little bit and you're going to give me from the practice of monogamy.
Right. The practice of monogamy distinguished the Greeks and Romans from other ancient civilizations in which elite males typically had multiple wives.
Right, you understand? So that was their custom. But because Rome conquered the earth, they pushed that doctrine. And when Rome fell apart and all the different parts of Rome and them still had great rulership on the earth, they kept that doctrine and keep pushing that doctrine on other civilizations. So black woman, Hispanic woman, Native Indian woman is something that you have to understand. You're dealing with an Israelite male, a black male, a Hispanic male, a Native Indian male, and he doesn't, you basically see him having other women. It is part of his custom. You understand? It is part of his custom. But his custom was taken away from him from the people who rule in the earth today, who is the break-offs of Rome. You understand? Who still pushing this doctrine of Rome today. So we're going to go into some ancient, some other civilizations upon the face of the earth and see if they used to follow the customs of Rome, or what was there, the customs that they would have carried about. Right. So we starting with the Arabs and them. Most marriages
are monogamous. Not every Arab man can afford to have several wives. Islam allows them to have up to 4 wives, but each of them should be provided with a house and being given equal amount of gifts, attention, jewelry, and so on. Right? So the Arab man culture is that the basic Arab man can have up to 4 wives, and the elite up to 7 wives. You understand? That is a culture that was outside of the Romans and the Greeks, and they practice multiple wives. You understand? And that same time period we're talking about, that was part of the custom, practicing multiple wives, just like it said in the readout from Wikipedia that other ancient cultures used to practice multiple wives. So we're going into another ancient culture. Polygamy has declined in the last decade, but remains common in West Africa. Most West African countries, polygamy is also recognized and regulated by the civil law that allows a man to marry up to 4 women under certain conditions, right? Including the financial capacity to support multiple wives. So this was something that also was practiced by the Africans on them. You understand? Another ancient civilization. You understand? Again, polygamy and concubines. Polygamy was allowed until the end of the Qin dynasty, 1644 to 1912, for the specific purpose of fathering heirs, since the Chinese culture is perennial. It was important for a couple to have a son, and heirless man could have additional wives to increase his chance of having a son. So even the Chinese culture, when you go back into history, also practice having multiple wives. The same thing, if you go up on Wikipedia, with the Japanese culture, same thing. They are all practice having multiple wives. So we'll go into another ancient civilization. Thus, polygamy became illegal in India in 1956. That's just the other day. Informally for all its citizens except for Muslims, who were permitted to have 4 wives, and for Hindus in Goa and along the western coast, where bigamy is legal. A polygamous Hindu marriage, right? So as you go through all the different cultures upon the face of the earth, just like the excerpt from in Wikipedia, they all practice having multiple wives. So when the white man took over the earth, basically he stripped the nation of Israel and other cultures of their way and basically push his way on them. So this is something that the first thing that sisters and them had to understand. If you were a black, a Hispanic, or a Native Indian man that not awake like brothers in the I.S.U.P.K underneath commanding General Yahanna, they're going to be hiding to do it, not knowing that this is actually their culture. They could have additional wives if they want to have additional wives, but they're going to be hiding to do it because it's in them to do it, but they're going to be hiding to do it, not knowing that they could, under their laws and their customs, they could have more than one wife. Right. So we're going to get familiar with some of the changes and things that the Greeks and the Romans would have made, especially in relation to the nation of Israel. Before we go into that, somebody pull up, I think it's Numbers 1 and 18, the scripture that tells you how you determine your pedigree. Yeah, can. The book of Numbers, chapter 1 and verse 18. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers. Right, you understand? So they determine the pedigrees, the bloodline, by house of their father. So whoever your father is, you are. If you're basically, your father is a so-called Negro and he go with a so-called Chinese, even though the child might look Chinese, the father is Negro, so the child is also Negro. Right. You understand? Right. This is what the scripture trying to tell you. You understand? Somebody might look like an East Indian, but the father is a Negro, then they is a so-called Negro. If you're looking like a Negro, but your father is a so-called East Indian, then you would be a so-called East Indian, right, according to the scriptures and them, right? So we're bringing out this for sometime a woman might be with a man and she might think that he's an East Indian, but you have to find out who his father is to know who he is. And then you would understand what nation he's from and what is his customs, because every nation upon the face of the earth is in the scriptures. You just have to know the biblical names and you would be able to trace the customs, the ways and them in these scriptures and them. Throughout time, the names have been changed. But once you know the biblical names, you're going to know the name of every nation upon the face of the earth today. When you're going in the scriptures and you see Esau or Edomites or the nation of Edom, that is the so-called white man. You see Elam, you understand? That is the so-called East Indians. Right. You see Ammon, that is the so-called Japanese. Moab is the so-called Chinese. You understand? Canaanites is the so-called South Africans. You understand? So all the nations and them upon the face of the earth is in the scriptures. You just have to know the biblical names, right? So we're going to go into some of the things that happen to the nation of Israel throughout times.
so we will understand, get a clearer picture of what's going on. Give me First Maccabees 1:41 to 50.
First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom.
Pause right there. And who King Antiochus be? What nation was he from? Throwing out that question to any of the brothers on them in the room. So-called white man or so-called Greek? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath.
Right. Go ahead.
For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land.
Right.
And forbid burnt offering.
Right.
And sacrifice and drink offering.
Right.
In the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days.
It went up to 50.
Verse 46. And pollute the sanctuary and holy people.
Right.
Set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave the children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable.
Right.
With all manner of uncleanness and profanation. Verse 49. To the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances.
Read that again.
Verse 49. To the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances.
Right. So all of these things that King Antiochus was doing was for us to forget the law of the Most High, you understand, and change all our ordinances. You understand? Go ahead.
Verse 50. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said, he should die.
Right. So if you could not have picked up the white man custom, you understand, the Greeks custom, you would die. You understand? So these things was forced upon us. And as we going into the scriptures concerning having more than one wife, so a woman will know that an Israelite man cannot cheat on you. You understand? An Israelite man cannot cheat on you. It is his custom to have more than one wife. But because he was underneath another culture, you understand, that was ruling at that time, he had to give up his laws and his ordinances, or else he would be put to death. You understand? So we're going to go into that. Read back that again from the top, and we're going to break it down piece by piece.
From
41.
The First Maccabees, chapter 1, and verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his people, Salakia, to his whole kingdom, that they should be one people.
You understand? So forget all your laws and customs and be one people underneath me. Forget everything and follow the Greek way. You understand? That's the best way to put it. You understand? Forget your customs, your laws, follow the Greek way. Go ahead.
Verse 42. And everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed.
You understand?
everyone should leave their own laws, and all the heathens and them agree. The heathens meaning the outside nations outside of Israel. The Lord has called them heathen in the scriptures. You understand? All these nations and them outside of Israel, they also leave their laws. Israel, leave your laws. You understand? And we following what King Antiochus say, who was a Greek. Go ahead.
According to the commandment of the king.
Right.
Verse 43. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion.
You understand? The weak are we people also consented to his religion. Go ahead.
And sacrificed unto idols.
Right.
And profaned the Sabbath.
Right.
Verse 44. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem.
Right.
And the cities of Judah.
Right.
That they should follow the strange laws of the land.
You understand? You let them know you had to follow my custom. The Greek customs, you had to follow that. You understand? Don't follow your customs that the Lord leave for you anymore. Follow my customs. Go ahead.
Verse 45. And forbid burnt offering.
Right.
And sacrifice. And drink offerings in the temple. And that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days.
Right. So don't keep your customs no more. Because we have Sabbaths and we have festival days. You understand? Which is only today in the Israelite school of universal and practical knowledge.
Right.
You understand? Who bring out this truth. Who bring back the customs and laws to the people who was lost in Christianity and in Islam and in all the other religions upon the face of the earth. Go ahead.
Verse 46. And pollute the sanctuary and holy people.
You understand? He do it to pollute the sanctuary and the holy people, God's people, the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Go ahead.
Verse 47. Set up altars and groves and chapels of idols and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts.
You understand? And he sacrificed swine's flesh and unclean beasts. And today, just to show you what we've been talking about earlier on, you understand that the doctrine of the Greeks and the Romans and them still being perpetuated in all these white nations and them. Today in the Christian church, Christmas morning, you still can get swine flesh to eat in the form of ham, in bread. You understand? You still could get the swine flesh to eat. You understand? Like talking about here in the scriptures. You understand? And you still could get unclean beasts in the form of the wild meat curricue and wild meat barbecue that it is still having in the Christian church. So it's showing you is the same doctrine that being pushed back then, being pushed today. Give me verse 47 again.
Verse 47, 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 47. Set up altars and groves and chapels of idols and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts.
Right. Go ahead.
Verse 48. That they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation.
Right.
To the end that, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances.
Right.
Verse 50. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said, he should die.
Right. You understand? So at the end of the day, they wanted us to forget we laws and we ordinances. And if we didn't forget it, you understand? Then you should die according to the law of the Greeks and them. You understand? So this is something that we women and them have to understand. You understand? All these things on them being pushed on us. You understand? This is not because customs. Yeah.
You know, and you're bringing out something very important to, and you know, just as I did mention in verse 43, when it says, yea, many also of the Israelite consented to his religion, and it shows the I.S.U.P.K, you know, under Commandant General Yahanna, is the ones that didn't consent it.
Right.
So the Christian
Correct.
church now is the one that consented, and this is why we out here now, just as I make mention, teaching our women now that, as I say, the Israelite man was moved away from the custom, but not all.
Correct.
This is why
correct.
we're teaching this in the I.S.U.P.K under Command General.
Correct. Correct. You understand? And it's a very important that Officer Sawak bring out. You understand? Right now, just like back then, it had many Israelites that consent, you understand, to his religion, which was the Greek religion, the Roman religion. That religion still being pushed today, and the Christian church has consented onto it. That is why Christmas morning you could get bread and swine's flesh, you understand, in the Christian church. And that is why you could get the unclean beasts, the curricue, and the wild curricue and the wild barbecue in the Christian church, because they consent to that doctrine. You understand? Just like back then. As I say, there's nothing new under the sun. Right. So you're going to give me Daniel 7:25.
Book of Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 25. And he shall speak, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
Right.
And think to change the times and the laws, and they shall be given into his hand until the time and times and the dividing of time.
Right. You give me that again.
The book of Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High.
Right. The white man shall speak great words against the Most High. You understand? Just like in the Catholic Church right now. The white man, come and say, the Pope, I changed the doctrine. You understand? We now accepting homosexuals in the Christian church. He's speaking great words against the Most High, because the Most High say that homosexuality is an abomination. You understand? He's speaking great words against the Most High. Go ahead.
And shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
And shall wear out the saints of the Most High. You understand? We're going to go into the precepts in the Bible and see who the saints of the Most High are. Because it is important to know these things. They will never break down these things on them for you in the Christian church. Now we know the time that Moses was on the face of the earth. The people that he was leaving was the Israelites. You understand? Which, when you're going into history, is the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Some of the history, you could get it in Babylon to Timbuktu. Some of the history, you could get it in the Zondervan Pictorial Bible Dictionary. And if you want it clean cut and pure, just tune in into I.S.U.P.K classes on YouTube, on Facebook, and you will get it live. You'll get the breakdown live. You understand? But let me go into the scriptures on them and see who the saints are. So you're giving me Deuteronomy 33, and you're reading 2 and 3. A matter of fact, start from 1. And we get to find out who these saints are. Deuteronomy 33, and you're reading from verse 1 down to verse 3.
Deuteronomy chapter 33,
and verse 1. And this is the blessings wherewith Moses, the man of the Most High, blessed the children of Israel before his death.
Right. Read that again. Read it a little slower.
Deuteronomy 33 and verse 1. And this is the blessing wherewith Moses, the man of the Most High, blessed the children of Israel before his death.
He blessed the children of Israel. You understand? He did not bless the children of Esau, which is another nation in the scriptures, or the children of Ammon, which is another nation in the scriptures, or the nation of Moab, which is another nation in the scriptures, or the Ishmaelites, which is another nation again. You understand? He blessed the children of Israel, which historically is the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians before his death. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And he said, the Most High came from Sinai and rose up and said unto them, he shined forth from Mount Paran, and he came with 10,000 saints.
He came in how much?
10,000 of saints.
Right, go ahead.
Right hand went a fiery law from them.
Right.
Verse 3.
So, right, let's pause right there. So when you hear this now, you might say, well, the Christian church might tell you, well, these 10,000 saints, them is spirits. You understand? Them is spirits. Like spirits are talking about, or angels. But you're making it more clear here in verse 3. Go ahead.
Verse 3. Yea, you have loved the people.
Yea, he loved the people. You understand? So it's people he talking about. You're not talking about spirits. You're not talking about angels. You're talking about people. You understand? Physical people. Go ahead.
All his sins are in thy hand.
Right.
And they sat down at thy feet.
Right.
Everyone shall receive of thy word.
Right. And the people that sat down at his feet and listened to his words are the children of Israel. You understand? The blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. You understand? So it are many other scriptures on them in the scriptures that would show you who the saints are. But basically, we touch on that one just to make it clear. So we're going back to Daniel 7 and 25. So when you hear the word saints now, you would know who we're talking about. Go ahead.
The book of Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High.
Right.
And shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
Right.
And think to change the times and laws.
You will think to change times and laws. You understand? We laws that we've been keeping have been changed. You understand? So if you see a black man doing these things, sister, understand we're going to teach you here that a black man, a Hispanic man, a Native Indian man, if you're with one of them, they could have more than one wife. You understand? That is something that the Most High give them right to do. They had the right to say, I want more than one wife. They had the right to say, I only want one wife, or I want no wives. You understand? Take another woman, you understand? Then that is not incorrect according to their, you understand, practices that the Most High left with them. That is not incorrect. The one wife came from the Greeks and the Romans. Right? So we're going to go into the culture now. Give me Exodus 21 and 10. We're going into the Israelite custom or the Israelite laws. You understand? And then we're going to get the understanding.
Exodus chapter 21 and verse 10.
All right.
If he take him another wife,
Right.
her food, her raiment, and her duties of marriage shall not diminish.
Right. You understand? If he take him another wife, You understand? Not one wife. If he take him another wife, her food, raiment, and her duty of marriage shall not diminish. You understand? So it is in our custom that we can have more than one wife. And we go in more in the scriptures and getting some more examples of that. So you're going into Genesis 4 and 19.
Genesis 4:19. And Lamech took 2 wives. The same of the one was Ada, and the name of the other Zillah.
Right, you understand? So right in these scriptures on them here, you would see that a man could have more than one wife. But the Christian doctrine, you understand, which came from the Romans and the Greeks, will tell you, don't bother with the Old Testament. We're dealing with the New Testament and try to slide in their customs. You understand? The customs that was kept from Romulus, you understand? And the customs that being kept from the Greeks and them, which practice the one wife, they will try to slide in that in onto you. You understand? When nowhere in the scriptures and them promotes, you understand, say that a man could only have one wife. You understand? That is not according to the scriptures on them. Give me Deuteronomy 21 and you're reading 15 to 17.
Deuteronomy 21 verse 21 and Deuteronomy 21 and verse 15. If a man have 2 wives,
Right?
one beloved and another hated.
Read that again.
Deuteronomy 21 and verse 15. If a man have 2 wives, one beloved and another hated,
Right?
and they have borne him children, both the beloved and the hated, and if the firstborn son be hers that was hated.
Go ahead.
Verse 16. Then it shall be, when he maketh his son to inherit that which he had, that he may not make the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated, which is indeed the firstborn.
All right. Go ahead.
Verse 17. But he shall acknowledge the son of the hated for the firstborn by giving him a double portion of all that he had, for he is the beginning of his strength. The right of the firstborn is his.
Right. So it's showing you, if a man have 2 wives, one that he loved and one that he hated, which could happen if a man had 2 wives, you understand? Sometimes the second wife playing the fool, you understand? She loud mouth, she don't treat him like the other wife that he have. So she become hated. But I still his first wife, you understand? The first wife, if you have a child with she, that child have right. You understand? The first right. Even though that is the wife that hated, he had the first child with that wife. You understand? So in the scriptures here, it's showing you some of the laws talking about 2 wives. You understand? And when you go through with forefathers and them, Jacob, Moses, David, King Solomon, you're going to see some of them had even more than 2 wives. You understand? But because the white man basically took away the laws and customs, and especially in the transatlantic slavery, you understand? Especially during that time, they used that Bible to doctrinate we, you understand, into Christianity and into the one wife and into all of the customs and them, and strip we at everything. Till today, we don't even have we own name. If you're not in the I.S.U.P.K under commanding General Yahanna, you're still carrying your slave name. You still will acknowledge your slave name in all your ways. You understand? all kind of Alexander people carrying and all kind of Charles and all them kind of things still carrying your slave master name. You understand?
Yeah. And then after some of them only they carry the slave master name. They want to go they want to pronounce it like they talk how they how the name thing they say Charles and Elizabeth.
Yeah. That's how destroyed. Now destroy the white man how we, you understand? Every other culture upon the face of the earth carrying them name. The Chinese is Lee. You understand? The East Indians is Ram Singh. The Arabs and them had a name, the Arab name. But we still carrying around the name, the customs, everything. So women had to understand that and understand. Once you understand this, all you had to tell your man is here what's going on. All right, you take, I know this is your custom. If you take another wife, according to Israelite law, you have to stay with you and you have to stay with the next wife. However, all you're going to work it out, all you have to work it out. It has some people just work it out in a way the house might be big enough that the two wives and them could stay in the same house. You understand? It is not in our custom to sleep with the two wives and them together on one bed. You understand? That is not in the custom. You understand? Because as the Lord say, that will vex one wife. You understand? You have to sleep with your different wives separately. If they can't coexist in the same house, you understand? Then 3 days might be for one wife, and then the next 3 days he spend with the other wife. And then it flip back around again. You understand? All you have to work out whatever strategy convenient to all you. You understand? He can't leave you and he can't leave her according to our customs. You understand? But you cannot tell him one wife. You understand? Once he's not a Greek or a Roman or the so-called white man, you cannot enforce that on him. You understand? And that way you have to understand. And he too, if he don't know it, you have to teach him that. You understand? If he go and get another wife because you're not Christianity and you run, you have to let him know, hey, I still your first wife. You understand? And you have rights to me. You understand? You could be with she, but you have rights to me. You understand? And like the scripture saying in Exodus, he still had the duty of marriage to perform. So he still had to come and perform he days and he nights with you, and he had to perform it with the next wife as well too. You understand? So these are the things you have to understand. And we coming back, we waking up as blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, our culture. So we're going to tell you straight up from the beginning. Hey, I know who I am. I know my customs. You understand? I can have more than one wife. You understand? I could choose to stay with you alone, or I could choose to have other wives. You understand? We're telling you that straight from day one. So you know what to expect. We're not hiding like Christian men. You understand? Right. But this is something, when you go out throughout history of the Bible, we women never really like. It's something, is the laws of the Most High that have to accept it, but it's something that never really like. So give me Genesis 30, and we're reading from 1 to 24. We're going to get a whole how the system used to work, a multiple wives, and how the sisters grew to accept it back then. You understand? And when the Most High come back again and put back Israel in charge of the earth again, you understand? All the laws, customs is going to be practiced. You understand? So this is something that you have to know.
Book of Genesis, chapter 30 and verse 1.
All right.
And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children,
Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, give me children, or else I die.
You understand? His sister. Because at that time, she wasn't bringing forth no child. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, am I the Most High said, who had withheld from thee the fruit of the womb?
Right, go ahead.
And she said, behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, and that I may also have children by her.
Right. So she tell him to go and take her maid. You understand? Go ahead.
Verse 4. And she gave him Bilhah, her handmaid, to wife.
You understand? She gave him Bilhah, her handmaid, to wife. You understand? And why they use that term? Because sex, marriage in the Bible. You understand? When you sleep with a woman, you're supposed to stay with her. The only how you're supposed to leave her is if she commit adultery. She go and sleep with another man, then she no longer your wife. She's the other man's wife. But once she didn't do that, she's still your wife. Go ahead.
And Jacob went in unto her. Verse 5. And Bilhah conceived, and bare Jacob his son.
Right.
And Rachel said, the Most High had judged me, and had also heard my voice, and had given me a son. Therefore called she his name Dan.
Right.
Verse 7. And Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again, and bare Jacob his second son. Rachel said, with great wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali.
Right. You understand? Go ahead.
Verse 9. When Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife.
And gave her Jacob to what?
To wife.
You understand? Again. You understand? She gave another maid. You understand? This is the other sister, Leah. And she also became Jacob's wife. You understand? So sex is marriage in the Bible. You could go as far back as Adam and Eve. You understand? When they had sex, you would see they became wife. You understand? Adam and Eve was husband and wife through sex. It did not no ring and finger. You never see no ring and finger and they become wife. They don't have that in the scriptures. You understand? Like the white man's custom, the Romans' custom, and the Egyptians' custom, ring and finger. That's where that come from. Go ahead.
Verse 10. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob his son. And Leah said, a troop cometh, and she called his name Gad.
Right.
And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob his second son. And Leah said, happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed. And she called his name Asher.
Right. Go ahead.
Verse 14. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest, and found mandrakes in the field.
Right.
And brought them unto his mother Leah.
Right.
Then Rachel said to Leah, give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes.
Right. And when you go into the what mandrakes was, it was something that used to make women fertile. You understand? Able to produce more children. You understand? We through there seen a whole set of breeding going on. And the beauty of having multiple wives. You understand? Multiple wives used to have the nation of Israel so large that the enemies and them used to say that we cover the face of the earth, and used to tremble in fear by the amount of us that it have. You understand? That is the purpose, one of the purposes of having multiple wives, so that we nation could be strong. You understand? Go ahead.
Verse 15. And she said unto her, it is a small matter that thou hast taken my husband, and wouldest thou take away my son mandrakes also?
Right, read that again.
Verse 15. And she said unto her, it is a small matter that thou hast taken away my husband, and wouldest thou take away my son's mandrakes also?
Right, so she chat. You understand? That small matter you take away my husband.
You understand? You go also take away my mandrakes too. You understand? She's trying to say like you want everything. You want my man. You understand? You want what are using to be fertile. You understand? Everything you want. You understand? So it's something that we women and them don't like. You understand? But it's something that the Most High used to build we nation and them. They come to accept it. And we coming out of that brainwash had to learn to accept it. The sisters had to learn to accept it. Right. You understand? Better you be with a brother in the I.S.U.P.K under commanding general, and at least you know, you understand that easy custom. Than the Christian man running all over the place. And when them running for no wife, them in assessing and looking for a wife, them running for horse, all in them who houses, and they could bring back AIDS for you, all kind of thing. That the kind of foolishness that them doing. Right. Go ahead.
And Rachel said, therefore, he shall lie with thee tonight.
Right.
For thy son's mandrake.
Right. So they're making a deal. You understand? They're making a deal. Nothing wrong with that. You understand? It's two sisters. You understand? Two wives. They work out a system. Nothing wrong with that. Go ahead.
Verse 16. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired with my son's mandrake.
Right, you understand? She let you know, hey, it's my time now. You understand? Go ahead.
And he lay with her that night. And the Most High hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived, and bare Jacob a fifth son. And Leah said, the Most High had given me my hire, because I have given my maiden to my husband. Right. And she called his name I.S.U.P.K.
Right. You understand? Go ahead.
Verse 19. And Leah conceived again, and bare Jacob the sixth son.
Right.
And Leah said, the Most High had endued me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun.
You understand? So you see the beauty that going on there. You understand? The nation getting big and strong. You understand? Plenty children, fruitfulness going on. Go ahead.
Verse 21. And afterwards she bare a daughter, and called her name Dinah.
Right.
And the Most High remembered Rachel, and the Most High hearkened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived, and bare a son, and said, the Most High had taken away my reproach.
Right.
And she called his name Joseph, and said, the Most High shall add to me another son.
You understand? So as you read down in the scriptures there, going down from 1 right down to 24 is just breeding going on. You understand? And the sisters and them, even though they might not like it, you understand? They understand that this is the custom of Israel. You understand? And through that, spawn the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. You understand? Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. It could not have happened unless these 4 sisters and them had accepted the customs of Israel. You understand? And bring children to the husbands and them. So it's important to note that this is our custom.
Like I said,
yeah.
As I hear understand the same time also, even like Jacob here, right? Jacob brother Esau, right? When you check back on too, that even Esau and all in the scriptures had more than one wife and all too. So when you go back on all, I think the first one he married was the African or the African or the Ishmaelite. I can't remember which one and all. Yeah, and then after he come and marry the Ishmaelite. So you mean I say when you go back in Daniel 7:25, we started changing the laws and things. So before then, he was having more than one wife and one.
Yeah, but during the time of the Greeks and the Romans, that is when he changed. During that whole incident with the Satan daughters and them customs and them was changed, and he started with the one wife. And because he was ruling, he pushed that on other cultures and them. You understand? So, what we learn, sisters, know that our one wife thing, that come from the white man. You understand? Right. Rome break up into different parts, and they still keep pushing the doctrine of Rome and the doctrine of Greek up to today. You understand? Through Christianity, through these countries like America and Britain, you understand? They continue pushing the doctrine. That is not our culture. You understand? So black woman, you understand? Hispanic woman, Native Indian woman, you're dealing with any black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man, and you have another woman, you cannot vex with him. He ain't cheat on you. You understand? According to his laws and his customs, he cannot cheat on you. You could commit adultery on him. You understand? Which is a sin. You understand? By sleeping with somebody else. But he cannot cheat on you. You understand? Because the Most High provide this for the men of Israel. And men like King David, men like King Solomon, men like Moses and Jacob, who name written in the scriptures. You understand? Who is men that the Most High respect. You understand? These men all had multiple wives. You understand?
Right.
And were deemed as righteous men. So this is what you have to understand. And even though this same white man who pushing this one wife doctrine, he just run all over the place and sleep with one set of different women. You understand? And carry about the vagabond ways, but he don't mind none of the children. But the Israelite man who practicing the multiple wives, they see about all the children on them. You understand? And all the wives on them. Right. So we go in to Deuteronomy 30 and we're reading from verse 1 going down to verse 5 from 1.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass, when all those things are come upon thee, the blessings and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whether the Most High thy power hath driven thee.
Right, you understand? So he's talking here about what Moses the prophesied, you understand, in Deuteronomy 28. You understand when he talk about the blessings and the curses, you understand? When we was keeping the laws of the Most High, we was blessed, you understand? During the time of King David, you understand? Part of the time of King Solomon, you understand? And before that, you understand, we was blessed as a nation. When we stop keeping the laws of the Most High, we start to fall under the curses when Moses prophesied. You understand? So this is what they're talking about. And he say, when you're amongst these nations, which is this time, these things are them going to come to mind. You understand? Your customs and your laws on them going to come back to you. You understand? Through the Spirit of the Most High, he set up his school, the I.S.U.P.K, under commanding General Yahanna, where black, Hispanic, and Native Indian men are waking up to the culture. You understand? Go ahead.
Verse 2. And shall return unto the Most High thy power, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day.
Right.
Thou and thy children with all thy heart and with all thy soul.
Right. You understand? So when we come back to do what we supposed to do, you understand? The Most High letting you know what's going to happen. Go ahead.
Verse 3. That then the Most High power will return, Salakia, will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations, whether the Most High thy power had scattered thee.
Right. So he scattered us into slavery. He's going to return and gather us from all these nations. That is why you could find blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians in all the right.
From thence will the Most High power gather thee.
Right. You understand? And of course, this heaven he's talking about here, because the Christian church the only heaven they know is where the Most High live in. You understand? There are more than one meaning for heaven in the scriptures on them. But we're going to go into that another time. Right? So go ahead.
And from thence will he fetch thee. Verse 5. And the Most High thy power will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it.
Right.
And he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers.
Right. He's going to multiply us in that day and in that time above we fathers and them. You understand? And if he's going to do that, we fathers and them had multiple wives. That we just went through there in the scriptures. You understand? So it means we're going to have even more multiple wives. You understand?
Right.
So this is something you have to understand, right? So this dealing with the first question that the sister had, and if I go through all the questions on them that the sisters that submit to me today, I'll go through it in another class, because due to time, we may not get to go through all of the questions on them, but I'll try to take one question from each sister and go through it. So that is the answer for the first sister, which is Katian, which basically asked, let's know. Let me just read it out as she indicated the question. Why do men have to cheat? You understand? So, sister, if you're viewing online, you get the answer to one of your questions. The other two questions, if I can't answer it tonight, I'll answer it to you in person, and I'll also answer it in another class so other sisters could get the knowledge.
Right.
And this is something that the Christian church will never tell you. You understand? It's just for you to understand. If your husband get another wife, you have to let your husband know that you had this understanding now, and you're still obligated to me. You understand? And you're also obligated to your other wife. However, all you want to work out the arrangement, if all you're comfortable being the house big enough and all you're comfortable being in the same house, or you're comfortable with a system that he with you some of the time, you understand, and the rest of the time when you see him, you know, he by his other wife, you understand, then all you could work out that system. You understand? But that, you cannot force that on a black, Hispanic, or Native Indian man, because having more than one wife is in their culture. That's their choice. They could choose to have more than one wife. Right. So the next question, she wants to know is, I'll go to the one in Jamandra asks from Grenada in terms of why they do have why men can accept that today things should be 50-50 between a man and a woman. So we're going to go into the scriptures on them,
Right.
and see who the Lord give the authority to. So Jamandra from Grenada, if you're looking, this would be the answer to your question. We're going to go into it biblically and understand the order of things, because everything has an order. If it doesn't have an order, it's because of confusion. And this whole 50-50 thing, in the next class, we'll go into it a little deeper, came from the white feminist movement. You understand? Wanting equal rights with the husbands and them. because they wasn't working, there was home. You understand? We sisters was always working. You understand? Because due to the state that we was in, after slavery, they would have take up little maid work, cleaning out them white people and them homes and all them kind of thing. You understand? Or whether they would have been doing work at home, seeing about animals or the case may be. So we sisters was always working. But these white women and them started to fight for 50-50, and we women and them now pick up the foolishness that they following. You understand? When that had nothing really to do with we, because we sisters was always pumping and doing the work. Right? So we're going to go into the scriptures on them and get the understanding of why things cannot be 50-50. Right, so again, Ephesians 5:22-23.
So like 5:22, right?
5:22, correct.
The book of Ephesians, chapter 5 and verse 22. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands.
Right, go ahead.
As unto the most high power.
Right, read over that again.
The book of Ephesians, chapter 5 and verse 22. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands, as unto the Lord.
Right, you understand? So just like you would submit yourself unto the Lord, you understand? If you really care about the Lord, you understand? And anything that he says is the same way you have to submit yourself to your husband. You understand? All them Christian women that like Jesus, we following Jesus, will like to follow your husband as well. And like to follow the things that he say. You understand? Once he's not telling you anything unlawful, once he's not telling you, go and sell your body and bring back money, you understand? For we to run the home. You understand? Or go and sell drugs, you understand, down the road. You understand? If have a man down there, this bag here are drugs, you go give him it. You understand? Then you're not to follow these things because these is unlawful instructions that he's giving you. But once he's giving you right instructions, like the running at the home girl, or where to go down in the market tomorrow and get so and bring it back. You ought to follow your husbands as unto the Lord.
Right.
You understand? That is what the scriptures say. And for all you Christian women and them, we understand, who don't like to listen to Old Testament, we dealing with the New Testament. Well, this is New Testament that we're reading from here. You understand? Obey your husbands as unto the Most High. Go ahead.
Verse 23. For the husband is the head of the wife.
Who is the head of the wife?
For the husband is the head of the wife.
The husband is the head of the wife. Not 50-50. You understand? 50-50 come from them white women and them. You understand? That was fighting for equal rights with the white man. That's where that come from. You understand? Again, just like the Greeks and the Romans try to push the custom on us, the white woman trying to push that 50-50 on we black women. You understand? This book belongs to the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. This is your customs here, black woman. You understand? Go ahead.
Even as Christ is the head of the church.
Right.
And he is the savior of the body.
Right. You understand? So now we go in to the book of Corinthians 11:3. We're going to get the order of how things is, because everything have an order. Without order is confusion. You understand? Everything has an order. And we're going to learn the order of how things supposed to be. Go ahead.
The book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 11 and verse 3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ.
Right. The head of every black, Hispanic, and native Indian man is Christ. Go ahead.
And the head of the woman is the man.
And the head of the woman is who?
The man.
Right. The head of the woman is the man. You understand? Again, not 50-50. You understand? The head of the woman is the man. Go ahead.
And the head of Christ is the Most High.
And the head of Christ is the Most High. So even Christ has a head. You understand? Even he has somebody that he have to take instructions from. Right. So just like Christ takes instructions from the Most High, black woman, Hispanic woman, and native Indian woman, you also have to take instructions from your husband. You understand? Which is the black man, the Hispanic man, and the native Indian man. You have to take instructions from him. You understand? Again, once it's not unlawful instructions. Go and sell drugs. Go and sell your body. You understand? To bring back money. Once he's not telling you that, you ought to listen to what he's telling you. Because everything has an order. And right here in the scriptures, the Lord showing you the order things. Like the Lord saying in the scriptures, he is not the author of confusion. 50-50 is confusion because that's nowhere in the scriptures. I come like again, a white woman, more authority than the Most High. The Most High say this is how it is, and you following what the white woman say. Go down to verse 7.
Of 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 7. For a man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he is the image and glory of the power.
Right. He's the image and glory of his power. You understand? Go ahead.
But the woman is the glory of the man.
But the woman is the glory of the man. You understand? So understand that. That is something you have to understand. Once you understand that, things going to be simple. It will not have no friction. You understand? This 50-50 with the white woman push, only causing friction between the black man and the black woman. Let she keep she custom. You understand? That is she custom. Let she keep that custom with she. Let she have 50-50 with the white man. You understand? And still under all of that, they still don't have 50-50 with the white man. You understand? But let you keep that. And let we keep we customs. Give me Colossians 3 and 18.
Colossians chapter 3 and verse 18. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husband, as it is fit in the Most High.
Right. You understand? Wives, submit yourself unto your own husbands. You understand? You ought to submit yourself unto your husband. You understand? Once you give you lawful instructions, submit yourself. The Most High know in the scriptures make you equal with the man. You understand? He did not make you equal. The white woman put that in your head. And we're going to go back as far as the book of Genesis to get our understanding. Give me Genesis 3 and 16.
The book of Genesis, chapter 3 and verse 16. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly thy sorrow.
Right.
And thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children.
Right.
And thy desire shall be to thy husband.
Right. Your desire shall be to your husband. Go ahead.
and he shall rule over thee.
You understand? And he shall rule over. You understand? And when we talking about rule, we ain't talking about for our sisters and them to understand that we ain't talking about he beating you upside and downside of your head. You understand? For no reason at all and doing things that not in the scriptures on them. You understand? Means when he sat down, the order he home and he said, this is how things going. You understand? You ought to listen to your husband. You understand? Because he is the head. Most of the times, why we men and women just get themselves involved in domestic violence and things because they're not following this word. You understand? If you follow this word, things gonna be simple. You understand? And especially if you're dealing with a man that following the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High in the I.S.U.P.K, it's easy. You understand? The instructions that he lay down for you, just follow them. He's not going to tell you anything unlawful. You understand? You just follow them and everything going to run smooth. There are things that your husband is going to see and going to pick up on that you is not going to pick up on. You understand? Because Christ communicates with your husband directly. This is something you have to understand. You understand? So it's certain things you're going to see that you're not going to see. But he communicates with you. So when Christ put down the instructions unto him through these scriptures and the understanding of these scriptures on them from the generals, the captains, the officers in the I.S.U.P.K, and he hands down the breakdown to you, all you have to do is follow it. You understand? And everything going to be fine. But when you want to follow the white woman, I want to rebel like the white woman, you understand? Then everything going to go haywire. Leave white people customs for white people. We as black people like white people customs too much. Everything we like white. You understand? Everything we like white. The whitewash everything and we love it. You understand? Big black women around Christmas time have one Santa Claus hat and a white man, a fat white man hat on the head and all them kind of foolishness like garbage. You understand? That is not your culture. Learn your culture and love your culture and love your customs and put away this foolishness. These things are nothing to do with we. Leave that for the white woman to do. Leave that for Mrs. Claus. Right, so that is in answer to Jamandra from Grenada as to why things not 50-50. You understand? You just had to pull it up on your own. The civil rights movement, as I say in the next class, I will go into that and you will learn who started that whole 50-50 revolution. Right. You understand? That wasn't we people that started that system. Wasn't we people. That had nothing to do with me. Right. So this last this last question here, I will throw that for one of the officers on them on the floor. This is Nikki in Canada. She asks, if a man goes to a fete, why he can dance with who he wants and it can't be the other way around? Why a man wouldn't allow a woman to dance with any man, with men across the fete? You understand? So I'll leave that on the floor. And we have some husbands on them in the house. You understand? To answer that question.
Basically, you just break down everything.
Yeah.
And you break down the order.
Yeah.
In 1 Corinthians 11:3.
Yeah.
And that order standard in change.
Exactly.
So no matter if you end up in a dance.
Exactly. Same order.
The order never changes.
Right.
Basically, that question.
Yeah.
Already answered with the
exactly
answer that they give to the previous person.
Exactly. So Go ahead.
Yeah, so like I said,
Yeah.
at the walls, that's what I was saying, right?
Yeah.
Even in that, right, which is the correct answer, right? And even in wisdom,
Yeah.
the scriptures tell us deal with a woman according to knowledge.
Yeah.
A man now knowing his wife if he go a session, he now having discipline to govern himself now to cater to she too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they know he might have more. Some of them might be able to deal with that type of thing. So you deal with the situation or the woman that they have
according to knowledge. Right, correct. Right, correct. You understand? You deal with she according to knowledge. Because you might know she can't handle that, so you know when you're moving with that particular session, you understand? You deal with she according to knowledge. But again, that right was given to the man. You understand? If you're looking now, you understand? That right was given unto the man in the scriptures and them. You understand? From the Most High. Right. Yeah, that wasn't given unto you. So it would be a disrespect if you be dancing on a set of different men. You understand? To your husband. You understand? Because that right wasn't given unto you. That is just the order that the Most High set things. You understand? So when you see a man doing that, he just following the order that the Most High set. You understand? And once you understand that, everything will run flow properly. Go ahead.
Yeah, so like I said, that's one final thing on the add.
Yeah,
it's just on the opposite end, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
Because I just mentioned on one side, which is on the man.
Yeah.
Right? So like so I just mentioned the other side.
Yeah.
Right, just adding even all the things that I brought out tonight.
Yeah.
Which is on point.
Yeah.
Even the woman now, as I mentioned before, not knowing the culture, don't understand that she is the property.
Yeah.
Or the possession of the man.
Exactly.
And if a man has something valuable or something that he care about, right, something that he cherish, right? So if you have $1 million in a briefcase, you wouldn't take $1 million if you cherish that and pass it along to everybody, let it big up in it and see what's inside it.
Right.
Because it's something that you cherish.
Right.
It might be a car, it might be even your children.
Yeah.
Right? If you have your daughters or your sons, you wouldn't take them and put them in other people's hands.
Right.
So it's the same perspective, no matter bringing from the woman point of view, where she now wouldn't be in the hands of every man in the party.
Right.
Because he is the property or the possession of this man.
Right.
So like I don't want to touch the other side.
Right. And Officer Kobal is very correct. It even have a scripture, I think that is in the Ecclesiasticus, will tell you that the wife is the property of the husband. Right. You understand? Right. So at the end of the day, he don't want you understand, like a whore, you understand, dancing all kind of different men, bringing disgrace onto him. It have an order that the Most High said down. You understand? And it's the order that basically the man is following. So it have, yeah, go ahead.
No, when we now we get the knowledge of the ground part of Sakwaba was saying, now when we go in them party and thing now, right? So now we gonna know that again now when they ask the woman now and thing, you gonna know she go care things but she ain't come here and meet it, but you can't see not in a party or something like go and look like go by TGI Friday and things. So that one here, but now when we go in that parties and now too now we getting knowledge and doing that day. Now it's like you all the woman say now, hey, for your man want to go and wine and everybody, but really and truly now it's like you can't really do it in that spirit now, because now we know that hey, some of them women belong to a man beauty. So now some men come out there pregnant and the woman and them wine up and next one and they will feel like floating. But now we get knowledge and knowing that hey, that man belongs to somebody else. We go out, all we see is a partner, wife and thing. We go and take that thing and go and wine up and that woman now more. Let's look like this far woman that's not dancing by herself. When we just see a woman come from this man and thing there, you go look to go and wind up on that woman. So even certain parties and all too, a man still can go and wind up and everything and all to God. The spirit agent, you know, we're looking like a looking for brotherhood and all.
Yeah, dealing with our according to wisdom. Yeah. A matter of fact, that Officer Kobal the talk about was a scripture I wanted to bring up to another question, but we'll touch it now. Let's see, I'll look for it. Let's go and pull it up here, and we'll touch on that scripture, because that's something important in that scripture that we men also had to understand in dealing with the sisters on them, so that these things on them, you know, it don't vex your sister. You don't know your sister you have. Some sisters, you could go in a dance with other women and it wouldn't bother them, but other sisters it would. So it's important to understand this and apply it, as Officer Kobal say, according to knowledge. 1 Peter 3 and 7.
The book of 1 Peter, the book of 1 Peter, chapter 3, the 1:7, right?
Yeah, 3 and 7.
The book of 1 Peter, chapter 3 and verse 7. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge.
Right.
Giving honor unto the wife.
Right.
As unto the weaker vessel.
As unto the what?
As unto the weaker vessel.
As unto the weaker vessel. You understand? Not 50-50, not the same. You understand? You have to understand that she is the weaker vessel. You understand? So these things on them might bother she. And as Officer Shah saying, the spirit of brotherhood and the spirit of sisterhood, sometimes you might, as a man, you might have a flex different because you know this sister, this going on bother she. You understand? When you're with your other wife who mightn't bother she, well then you could flex differently accordingly. But you have to know, you have to deal with her according to knowledge. You would know where she at mentally, spiritually, and you have to deal with she according to that. You understand? So that everything could run smooth. They wouldn't have unnecessary friction. You understand? But she had to understand at the same time that the rights that the Most High give the man is not the same rights that he give the woman. You understand? Your head is Christ. Her head is the husband. And once you understand that, you understand this 50-50 stupidness, let that stay out the door. Let that stay with the white man and with the white woman. Understand that is not our culture. Right? So, yeah.
And as you mentioned that, you know, we must give the sisters a hand.
Yeah, for real. You understand? I.S.U.P.K that accept the scriptures, accept what the scriptures and them say, you understand, and maintaining the family, maintaining the husbands on them, you understand, submitting to that order, and everything running smooth because they know what their job is, and that's the problem in today's society.
Right.
Women, black women, Hispanic women, and Native Indian women don't know the role in the scriptures. You understand? They want to assume your role. You understand? Get acquainted with the scriptures and know what your role is and play your role. You understand? Let the man be the man and you be a woman because your role is in the scriptures. You understand? Learn your role and all of the friction will end and we will be smooth, just like relationships of old. When you see old people, 60-something years, they're living together, 70-something years, they're living together. You understand? But now you pick up this doctrine of the white woman, and today we marriages and then they're not lasting. You understand? They're not lasting at all. They're going down the tubes. You understand? Because you don't want to submit. When the Lord tell you have to submit to your husband. You understand? Not I tell you have to submit to your husband. You understand? The Lord tell you that. And if your husband has to listen to Christ, the order he say is that you, the woman, also have to listen to your husband. That's just how it is. You understand? You mightn't like it, but that's the way the Lord set it. So, as I say, again, we'll continue with another part 2 to this class because the sisters are going to ask some additional questions. Again, big up for the boldness and the willingness of the sisters, Katian in Trinidad, Nikki in Canada, and Jamandra in Grenada for bringing forward the questions, and we'll go through it at another time. And with that, we pass the class on to
Prison Officer Mike Watt.
This is the I.S.U.P.K security announcements. We are the I.S.U.P.K out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under command of GEN.YAHANNA. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or a sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to share themselves with the world. After 6 months, if your brother or a sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to the brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After the 6-month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. You can find this in Numbers chapter 18 and verse 21 and Malachi chapter 3 verses 8 to 10. Means tenth in the Hebrew and is pronounced ma'ashra. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, you give to the treasury department or teacher. Priest fund. Free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. Upcoming holy convocation. The upcoming holy convocation is the Feast of Purim, right? Which is the 14th day and the 15th day of the 12th month on the Hebrew calendar, which would be Thursday, February 25th and Friday, February 26th in the year 2021. You can find this in Esther chapter 9, verse 20 to 31. Remind Archeum and Aquatium to check on social media, such as ISUPK.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on, for I.S.U.P.K events and materials. If a brother wants to be a trooper in the school, then he is to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, like shirt, like headbands or scarf. And with that, we say, I imagine. Sir, we're going to turn and face the east, and we're going to begin with Lord's Prayer in the Hebrew. Abanawa, Shabashimaya, Kwadash, Haya, Shamka, Yahawah, Malakwatka, Taba'a, Ratazaka, Haya, Aisha, Barataza, Kawa, Haya, Washimaya, the thunder now, the come, Kal, Yawam, Wasalakno, Kawawatno, Kasalakno, Kawawatino, Wala'a, Tabayanawa, Vanasaya once, above, Hawashai. Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Wa'ala, Wataparat, Iwalamio, Aman.
English. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, Yahweh. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day, our daily bread. And forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. So be it.
We're going to say the blessings in the Hebrew. Barakata Yahweh, Wa Yahweh Shai, Wa Makala, Wa Alahayim, Matazabia, Alawapia, Ha Alawapia, Ha Saranya, Ha Kwatazaya Nyam, Ha Kayel Nyam, Wa Kwapia, Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai, to Wada Aman.
See the blessings in the English. Bless you, Yahweh. And Yahweh Shai, and Michael, and the angels, Commanding General Yahanna, the generals, the captains, officers, troopers, and the sisters. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you. So be it.
We're going to say the Hakak, or the power in the Hebrew. Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bamakashah, the thunder now, Hakak, Narapa, Kalmakala, Wakal Madawo, Hakak, Lata, Hamatazario, Hakak, Lahakoya, Hamatoya, Hakak, Irakawat, Hatamayala, Lagarashon, Basham, Yahweh Shai, to Wada Aman.
See the power in the English. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh, please give us the power.
Please give us the power.
The power to heal.
The power to heal.
All manner of sickness.
All manner of sickness.
And all manner of disease.
And all manner of disease.
The power to cleanse the lepers.
The power to cleanse the lepers.
The power to raise the dead.
The power to raise the dead.
The power against unclean spirits.
The power against unclean spirits.
To cast them out.
To cast them out.
In the name of Yahweh.
In the name of Yahweh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So be it.
So be it.
The city I.S.U.P.K curses. Blessed are you, Yahweh.
Blessed are you, Yahweh.
King of heaven and earth.
King of heaven and earth.
And all things living.
And all things living.
Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh. Listen to us now.
Listen to us now.
Right now.
Right now.
Send evils and curses.
Send evils and curses.
And punishment and destruction.
And punishment and destruction.
To the heathen.
To the heathen.
That speak against
us. That speak against us.
Thy prophets.
Thy prophets.
The teachers.
The teachers.
The princes.
The princes.
The priests.
The priests.
The Israelite brothers.
Israelite brothers.
And the school.
And the school.
Send evils and curses.
Send evils and curses.
And punishment and destruction.
And punishment and destruction.
To the heathen.
To the heathen.
And shake loose the treasure.
And shake loose the treasure.
Of the rich of Israel.
Of the rich of Israel.
That refuse to give to the school.
That refuse to give to the school.
Force their riches.
Force their riches.
To enter into thy sanctuary.
To enter into thy sanctuary.
Send evils and curses.
Send evils and curses.
And punishment and destruction.
And punishment and destruction.
To the Edomites.
To the Edomites.
And the nations.
And the nations.
And their drug dealers.
And their drug dealers.
The court system.
The court system.
Prison system.
Prison system.
Planned Parenthood.
Planned Parenthood.
All the governments of our enemies.
All the governments of our enemies.
Amalek synagogues and armies.
Amalek synagogues and armies.
Roman Catholic Church.
Roman Catholic Church.
The Pope.
Pope.
Islam.
Christianity. Egyptology.
Militia. Ku Klux Klan. Aryan Nation. Skinheads.
Quasi-Comitazi.
The gay movement.
Lesbian movement.
Spies. Workers of witchcraft.
NASA space program.
Army.
Navy.
Air Force.
Marine.
Wall Street. Open up the internet. And the airwaves. The cable access channel. And the radio channel. Convict the spirits of any of our people. That seek to stop us. And bring swift destruction. To all the heathen. That stand in our way. Or try to stop us. From broadcasting your words. Throughout the planet Earth. Let loose all the plagues. Cause them to go to and fro. Through the earth. And consume them. Let the plague shake. The house of the thief. And the murderer. Let Yahweh, Michael, and Gabriel come down with the flying saucers. And punish all the heathen. That come up against us. As we speak thy word. Cause it to be known.
By all.
That is the angels that have done it.
It is the angels that have done it.
Cause it to be spread. Throughout the media. Throughout the whole world. Cause them to shake and thy coming. In the name of Yahweh. Thank you. Always. So be it.
We're going to say the blessed Israel in the Hebrew. Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh, Barak Lanawa, Vayashala, Wahabayat, Superior, Barak, Rapah, Hagan, Commander General, General, Captains, Officers, Troopers, Sisters, Children, Destroyer of Israel, brothers and sisters fighting to come to the truth, brothers and sisters in the truth,
I.S.U.P.K worldwide and the family,
I.S.U.P.K worldwide and the families,
I.S.U.P.K children and the big on the family,
I.S.U.P.K children and the big on the families, Aisha, Yazapa, Partisan, Yapa, Tamar,
Commander General,
General, Captains, Officers, Troopers, Sisters, Children, all the destroyed of Israel, Kaluna, Raktabash, Shariah, Indian families, Usulan family, Ikuta family, Philip family, Fletcher family.
Commanding General Yahanna. All the generals, all the captains, all the officers, all the troopers, all the sisters, all the students, all the fighting the community,
all the fighting the community, Shamka, Kaya, Yapa, Para. Commander GEN.YAHANNA, Generals, Captains, Officers, Troopers, Sisters, Children, all the destroyed of Israel, all that find the come to the truth, John family, Philip family, the Kote family,
Brothers and sisters in the I.S.U.P.K.
Brothers and sisters in the I.S.U.P.K.
Brothers and sisters find come to the truth.
Children and babies in the I.S.U.P.K. Franco family, Brown family, Zion, Wesleyan, Daniela, Jamelia, Ashida, Trisha, Island, Nima, Khadija, Chantel.
All the brothers and sisters in the I.S.U.P.K.
All the brothers and sisters in the I.S.U.P.K.
All the brothers and sisters fighting to come into the truth.
All the brothers and sisters fighting to come to the truth.
All the brothers and sisters in the truth.
All the brothers and sisters in the truth.
Have mercy on the destroyer of Israel.
Have mercy upon the destroyer of Israel.
The Bawa, Teresa, Aliyah, Alicia, Joyce, Charles family, Henry family.
Bashem, Yahushai, Tawada Aman.
So he bless Israel in the English. Lord, in the name of Yahushai, bless us, and Israel, and the school, bless, heal, shield, protect our loved ones. In the name of Yahushai,
thank you.
So be it.
Sir, men of Israel, let's give the teacher a one courtesy salute. Imagine Shabbat, imagine Barak, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai Rakatah,
Yahweh Hashem Yahushai Rakatah,
Yadiad Matah. Sir, men of Israel, let's give the sisters online a one courtesy salute. Imagine Shabbat, imagine Barak, Yahweh Shemai Latan Hashem Yahushai, Yadiad Matah. Class dismissed. Yeah.